The morning light streamed in through my huge living room window, casting a soft glow on the luxurious furniture that surrounded me. It was a beautiful house, full of priceless paintings, but for me, it was like a prison. I was surrounded by memories of a life that no longer existed. The smell of fresh coffee, which used to cheer me up, now only brought me a feeling of nostalgia and loneliness. I looked at the large dining table, where I used to hold extravagant dinners with friends and associates, and a sigh escaped my lips. My name, Alex Johnson, was synonymous with success and power, but now, after the accident, that name was just a shadow. As I watched the sunlight reflect off the walls, my gaze got lost in one of the paintings that hung on the wall. A vibrant painting that I had done myself before everything changed. My fingers twitched involuntarily as I thought about how I could have been more than a man confined to a wheelchair. The phone rang, and with difficulty, I reached for my cell phone. It was my assistant, asking me to remember the interview I had scheduled. A caregiver. The idea seemed absurd, but the truth was that I needed help. Time passed, and the moment for the interview finally arrived. When Sarah entered, I felt a mix of curiosity and fear. She had a strong and determined look, an expression that reflected the struggle she carried. Her past was a shadow I couldn't ignore, and that's what made me so anxious. "Are you Sarah?" I asked, trying to sound relaxed. "Yes, it's me," she replied, her voice firm, but her eyes betrayed a world of pain. "I am here to help." The interview was tense. I watched her closely, looking for any sign of weakness. "Why do you want to work here, Sarah?" I asked, my voice resounding in the large room. "Because I need a second chance. And honestly, I want to make a difference in someone's life," she said without hesitation. There was a sparkle in his eyes that reminded me that despite his past, there was strength in his determination. "You know, my past is complicated," I said, trying to be honest. "I know, but we all have our ghosts. What matters is what we do now," she replied, and in that moment, I felt like there was something deeper there. But social pressure and my family's disapproval hung like dark clouds over us. After a long silence, I decided, "I'm going to hire you, but I need you to know that there will be people who won't accept this decision, and I don't want you to feel bad about it." "I don't care what anyone thinks," she said, with a confidence that surprised me. "I just want to do my best." With a nod, I nodded. It was a decision that would defy all expectations, but something inside me felt that it was what I needed at that moment. At the end of the interview, as she was getting ready to leave, a strange feeling came over me. It was as if, somehow, we were about to enter unknown but promising territory. That day, when Sarah walked through my door for the first time, I felt the weight of judgment hanging over us. The walls, which surrounded me like a fort, seemed more oppressive than ever. What would others say? What would my family think? But at the same time, there was a subtle hope that perhaps this new partnership could bring something different to our lives. Something that we still couldn't see, but that was about to begin. I looked at Sarah as she moved around the room, her gaze fixed on every corner of that space that, to me, was a golden prison. The tension in the air was palpable, as if a storm was about to break out. I was immersed in a sea of frustration and resentment, feeling the invisible chains that tied me to a past that would never return. "Can you help me get a glass of water?" I asked, trying to break the silence that stretched like an abyss between us. "Of course," she replied, her voice firm but with a slight tremor. Sarah headed to the kitchen, and I watched her, trying to understand the woman who was in charge of looking after me. The weight of my new world was felt with every move I made, and every time it came and went, there was a painful reminder of the life I had lost. When she returned, she handed me the glass with a neutral expression, but there was something else in her eyes, curiosity perhaps. I couldn't let her see how vulnerable I felt. "Have you worked in care before?" I asked, trying to shift the focus away from myself. "Yes, in a home for the elderly. It was difficult but rewarding work," she replied, looking me straight in the eyes. "And you? What did you used to do before all this?" I hesitated. Her question was like a sharp knife, cutting through my shell of indifference. The truth was, I didn't want to talk about my old self, the Alex who had it all. Success, mobility, freedom. I was a businessman, I replied, with disdain in my voice. I had a life that seemed perfect. And now? Now I am this. Anger welled up in me, and I realized I was giving in to a resentment that could easily turn into something much uglier. She didn't deserve this. It wasn't her fault that I was trapped in this body that didn't obey me. Sarah leaned forward a little, as if trying to understand the depth of my frustration. Everyone goes through difficulties, Alex. I know what it's like to feel like the world is against you. You don't know anything about me, I said, voice harsher than I intended. You don't know what it's like to lose everything in an instant. The life I had, it was everything I wanted. She pulled away slightly, as if my words hurt her. You don't have to be like this. I'm not here to make you feel worse. And what do you know about it? You went to prison. Silence fell, and the air became heavy between us. I realized I had crossed a line. Sarah had her own demons, and I was just fueling the battle she was already fighting. Sorry, I mumbled, finally breaking the silence. I wasn't supposed to talk like that. It's okay, she said, but the look on her face showed that it wasn't. Life is complicated for all of us. I'm just trying to do my best. That answer hit me like lightning. In her, I saw a woman who was also struggling with the weight of a past that followed her, just like mine. What do you like to do? I asked, trying to change the focus of the conversation. Besides taking care of people, of course. I like painting, she replied, and the surprise in her voice was evident. Painting has always been a way of escaping. To paint? I frowned. I used to paint too. It was one of my passions before all of this. Why don't you try again? Sarah suggested, with a glimmer of hope in her eyes. You have a blank canvas here. It might be a good way to express yourself. To paint? I don't know if that's a good idea. The fear of failure crept into me, but something about her confidence made me hesitate. And if I cannot? What if you succeed? She smiled, a genuine smile that seemed to light up the room. Sometimes we just need a push. What do you have to lose? I looked at the blank canvas that was there, waiting for me, and for the first time in a long time, a little spark of curiosity lit up inside me. I hesitated, but deep down, something inside me began to move. Okay, he said, finally agreeing. I am going to try. As she helped me position myself in front of the screen, I realized that maybe, just maybe, this was the first step toward regaining something I thought I had lost forever. The blank canvas before me was a reflection of what I felt, a void that needed to be filled. I had hesitated before accepting Sarah's suggestion, but now, with the brush between my fingers, a wave of emotion began to flow. The colors blended together as I applied the first layer of paint, a soft blue that represented the tranquility I so desired. Beside me, Sarah watched in silence, her gaze attentive and curious. You know, Alex, painting can be like life, she said, breaking the silence. Sometimes we have to allow ourselves to make mistakes, to make a blemish here and there, to find something beautiful in the end. I looked at her, surprised by her wisdom. Do you really think I can create something beautiful after everything I've lost? Of course I do, she replied, encouraging me with a smile. Beauty often comes from chaos, and you have so much inside you that needs to be expressed. As I continued to paint, the memories began to flow. I remembered when I was a child, sitting on the porch of my parents' house, drawing the landscapes I saw. The smell of the ink and the feel of the paper beneath my fingers was a part of me I had forgotten. I used to paint a lot when I was younger, I confessed to Sarah, as the colors began to take shape on the canvas. It was a way to escape. Escape from what? She asked, leaning forward, interested. The pressure to be perfect, to be Alex Johnson, the successful millionaire everyone expected me to be, I said, feeling a pang at the memory. Now, I'm just a man in a wheelchair. You are so much more than that, Sarah stated, her voice firm. You're an artist. And honestly, the wheelchair doesn't define who you are. It's just a part of your story. There was something comforting in her words, a genuine empathy that I hadn't expected from her. This made me open up even more. What about you? What brought you here, Sarah? What made you change? She hesitated for a moment, her expression changing to a mixture of sadness and determination. I made mistakes. Mistakes that cost me my freedom and, more importantly, people's trust. But I want to be better. I want to show that I can help, that I'm not a bad person. Everyone deserves a second chance, I said, feeling a stronger connection between us. It was as if the barriers that separated us were slowly crumbling. As the days went by, our routine became more comfortable. Painting became a ritual that we shared, and with that, small moments of joy began to emerge. I remember one day I decided to try a new color. How about a vibrant red here? I asked, pointing to the screen. Red? You want me to think you're mad? Sarah joked, laughing. No, I want you to see the passion that's still inside me, I replied, laughing along. You don't know, but this color is the color of life. And so, between strokes and laughter, we began to build a friendship that challenged the norms that imprisoned us so much. The conversations became deeper, and the uncertainties that previously hung in the air were replaced by a feeling of camaraderie. One day, while I was engrossed in my work, Sarah interrupted my creative trance. Alex, have you ever thought about exhibiting your paintings? I looked at her, surprised. Expose? Are you serious? Yes. Why not? You have talent, and people need to see that. You shouldn't hide behind your past. The idea floated through my mind, like fresh paint on a canvas. Maybe you're right. I'm just afraid of what people will think. Their opinions be damned, Sarah replied, her voice firm. You are more than what they think. Show them who you really are. I smiled, feeling the strength of his words envelop me. The friendship we were building was a reflection of our second chances. And as challenging as it was, I was beginning to believe that I could, in fact, rewrite my story. But in that moment of discovery and joy, a group of old friends appeared by surprise, interrupting our moment. I looked at Sarah, and the tension was in the air again. The new dynamic between us was about to be challenged, and I didn't know how to handle it. The day before the exhibition, I found myself in a mix of anxiety and expectation. Alex's house, which had once seemed like a maze of loneliness and shadows, now rang with laughter and color. I had dedicated myself to supporting him in preparing the works, and even with my nervousness, there was a palpable feeling of accomplishment in the air. As Alex focused on his paintings, I couldn't help but think about the nasty comments his friends had made a few days ago. How can you trust a former prisoner? And what hurt me the most, she just wants to take advantage of her fame. That night, while organizing the brushes and paints, I decided to bring up the subject. Alex, are you still thinking about your friends visiting? He stopped for a second, looking at the picture he was painting. I don't know. Should I? They don't understand. They never will. True. But that doesn't change what you've done here, what you're creating, I replied, trying to be encouraging. You have talent, Alex. And I'm proud of you. He turned to me, a slight smile on his lips, but his eyes still carried a shadow of uncertainty. I'd like to believe they're wrong. But the truth is, deep down, I also wonder if I made the right choice in hiring you. I tensed at his words. Alex, you know I only want what's best for you. What matters is what we both know about ourselves, not what others think. You do not understand. He took a deep breath. I'm a millionaire in a wheelchair, and you're an ex-prisoner. We're in different worlds, Sarah, and that difference is always there. We need to break down these barriers, I said, with more determination than I actually felt. Life is full of second chances, and I know that better than anyone. Look at you. You're here, creating something beautiful. Maybe you're right. He looked at the painting again, as if searching for his own answers in the colors. But what if I fail? What if they're right? Then you will have done this for you, not them, and I will be here no matter what. I closed the distance between us, placing my hand on his arm, trying to convey strength. You are not alone. Alex's expression softened, and there was silence, but it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was like we were understanding each other, supporting each other in ways I never would have expected. However, the feeling that something was wrong persisted. As I was organizing the paintings, something in one of them caught my attention, a detail I hadn't noticed before. The colors seemed to blend together in a way that didn't make sense. Alex, come here, look at this, I called, pointing to the board. Did you notice this part feels different? Like there's something hidden here? He approached, and his gaze fixed on what I was pointing at. What do you mean? It's like there's a hidden message, or something that shouldn't be here. I leaned closer, trying to understand. It looks like you tried to cover something. Alex frowned. I don't remember doing that. Let me take a closer look. As he analyzed the work, a look of confusion came over his face. That's weird. I don't know how it happened. I didn't paint anything other than what's already here. Don't you think that might mean something? Like you're trying to communicate in a way you haven't noticed yourself? The idea intrigued me. Maybe your subconscious is trying to tell you something. Or maybe I just got distracted while painting. He responded, but there was a trace of insecurity in his voice. I'm going to help you find out, Alex. We can't let this go. It could be important, and I want you to know that I'm on your side. He nodded, but the concern in his eyes didn't disappear. Tomorrow will be the exhibition. We can't be distracted now. Whatever that means, we'll have to sort it out later. Yes, let's focus on exposure. But please don't ignore it. The feeling that there was more behind that painting bothered me, but I knew that supporting Alex was a priority. You're going to kill it tomorrow? He smiled, but tension still hung in the air. The night progressed, and even with the expectation of the exhibition, an uneasiness grew within me. What was really hidden in that painting? And what would that mean for Alex and for us? The future was about to unfold, and I just hoped we were prepared to face whatever came. I looked at that painting, the same one Alex had painted on those silent afternoons when the sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the vibrant colors he had chosen. But something was wrong. A hidden, almost whispering message began to reveal itself. The brushstrokes were not just traces of new life. They told a story of betrayal. My heart accelerated. How could I have let that go unnoticed? Alex, you need to see this, I said, calling him into the studio. He was there, sitting in his wheelchair, observing his creations with a look of pride and vulnerability. What happened, Sarah? Concern was written all over his face. Take a closer look, I asked, pointing to the area of the painting that I thought was suspicious. These colors, they don't just look decorative. There is something more here. He approached, and our eyes met as he analyzed every detail. The tension grew between us, as if the air was charged with electricity. I can't see what you're seeing, he replied, frustrated. What are you insinuating? I'm not insinuating anything. I just feel like there's a hidden message. And if that's true, you need to stay away from these people, Alex. They may not be who you think they are. He took a deep breath, a mix of anger and confusion. You do not understand. They are my friends. They were always by my side, until the accident. But they weren't, I countered, sensing the urgency of the situation. You don't remember, but the accident changed everything. It could be that they took advantage of your fragility. What if it's all a big lie, Sarah? What if I lose what's left of my life? I'm tired of being alone. His voice trembled, and I realized that loneliness terrified him more than any betrayal he might discover. It's not about being alone, Alex. It's about surrounding yourself with people who really care about you. Look at me. I'm here, even after everything that happened. Doesn't that mean anything to you? He hesitated, eyes lost in an internal conflict. It's easier to trust people you already know. I don't know if I'm ready for this. Those words cut me. I knew I was struggling to gain his trust, but doubt still hung over him like a shadow. Exposure is coming, and I don't want you to be exposed to any more pain. If these people really care, they will want the best for you. And if not, well, you deserve better than that. Do you think you should confront them? His doubt was palpable, and I could see he was struggling with the idea of losing what was left of his old life. Yes, but not now. First, we need to prepare. Let's focus on the exposure and then make a plan. The event was approaching, and the idea that he might be questioned about his past made me uneasy. Alex sat silently, processing what I had said. Do you really think I should go through with this? You need to show the world who you are now, and if necessary, move away from those who are not part of your future. That night, as tension hung in the air, we decided to focus on the paintings. Alex spent hours in front of the screen, but I noticed that each time he looked at the painting I had highlighted, a new layer of understanding formed. Art was becoming his voice, a form of expression that did not depend on others. On the day of the exhibition, the atmosphere was electric. I helped him get ready, dressing him in a suit jacket I handpicked, something that made him look more confident. "You look amazing, Alex. Remember, this is your night. What if they start asking about the painting?" He was visibly nervous, his hands shaking slightly. "You just tell the truth. You are an artist now, and your art speaks for you. Come on, you can do it." As we entered the gallery, the murmur of the audience intensified. Curious looks turned to us. When Alex began presenting his works, the atmosphere was tense. It wasn't just an exhibition. It was a battle for his new identity. Then, one of Alex's friends approached, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "So, Alex, how do you feel about all this? What has changed in your life?" I realized he was trying to provoke him. Alex hesitated, and for a moment I saw the fear in his eyes. But before I could intervene, he took a deep breath. "I feel like I'm finally finding myself again. Art gave me a new perspective on what's worth it." His response was stronger than I expected. He was getting up, one step at a time. But when the night ended, something unexpected happened. An old friend of Alex approached, looking serious. "Alex, we need to talk about the accident." My heart stopped. What would he say? The uncertainty of what was to come enveloped me as words piled up on the tip of my tongue. The truth was about to come out, and I just hoped Alex was prepared to face it. The press conference was scheduled for the next day, and the tension in the air was palpable. As I looked out the window of my studio, I saw the city pulsating, oblivious to what was about to happen. The sun was shining on my face, but I couldn't feel its heat. Instead, a chill ran down my spine as my friend's words echoed in my mind. "They knew, Alex. They knew exactly what they were doing." I needed the truth, and Sarah was there for me, willing to help me even when I hesitated. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. I saw her approaching, and her presence felt like a safe haven in the midst of the gathering storm. There was a gleam of determination in his eyes that encouraged me. "I'm not sure I'm ready for what I'm going to find out," I confessed, turning the wheelchair around to face her. "What if I come across something I can't handle?" "Alex," she said, placing her hand over mine. "The truth can hurt, but the lie has been doing that for too long. You need to know who the real culprits are." I agreed, although doubt still hovered over me. That night, I relived all the moments leading up to the accident. The friendship I thought I had with those men, the support they promised me. It was like looking into a broken mirror, reflecting pieces of a life I no longer recognized. "Let's do this," I finally said, with more conviction. The next morning, the press conference was packed. Reporters and cameras were ready to record not only my words, but also the transformation I was about to reveal. I was no longer there to just show my paintings. I was there to expose the truth, and that meant confronting the traitors who had hidden behind smiles and promises. When I entered the room, the murmur of the crowd instantly ceased. I felt everyone's eyes on me. Sarah was by my side, and her presence gave me strength. "Remember what we talked about," she whispered, like a mantra I needed to repeat. "Thank you everyone for being here," I began, my voice steady. "Today, I come not just to talk about my art, but to reveal the truth behind my accident, a truth that was carefully buried by those I trusted." The cameras were flashing, and the room was silent. I could feel the tension building. After careful investigation, I discovered that my accident was orchestrated by people very close to me who sought to seize my fortune. What happened was not an accident. It was a betrayal. The room erupted in murmurs, and I saw some of the familiar faces among the reporters begin to stir. Sarah was ready, holding a folder with documents that proved everything. This evidence shows that not only was the accident planned, but that manipulation and dishonesty were part of the game. "Sarah, you don't have to do this," I told her, as I felt the fear rise. But she looked at me, the determination in her gaze unwavering. "You're not alone, Alex. It's time to take your place back." She turned to the audience, holding the folder tightly. "These documents show the connection between Alex and those who betrayed him. We cannot let this go unpunished." Questions began to arise, and the atmosphere changed from a simple conference to a real courtroom. I saw faces that were once friendly now turn pale. What was a moment of vulnerability turned into an act of courage. "Alex, are you willing to pursue charges?" a reporter asked. "Yes," I replied, my voice stronger than I expected. "I'm here to get my life back, and that includes standing up to those who tried to destroy me. Today, I'm not just the man who lost his mobility. I'm a man who found his strength." The turmoil in the room intensified. I looked at Sarah, who nodded, and in that moment, I realized that true wealth was not in my possessions, but in the friendship that had grown between us. I was finally free from the shackles of my past, and the life I had lost was beginning to blossom again. "Let's expose the truth together," I declared, looking at Sarah, and when I did, I knew I was ready to face whatever came next.